to Caribbean Connections. I am Dion Ligor, and this is part 2 of our discussion with Mr. Adam Stewart, the Chairman of Sandals Resorts International. In this episode, he shares some of his views on regional tourism. Very insightful and thought-provoking. Mr. Stewart, welcome back to Caribbean Connections. Mr. Adam Stewart, thank you for joining us again here on Caribbean Connections. Our first episode was so popular that we felt we needed to get you back here with us. And to take a bit of a broader slant to our discussion, we want to look at some elements of regional tourism to get your very expert perspective on happenings in the region. As we're aware, and we're quite happy about that, we see regional tourism is picking up again. But what are some of the things that you think that we can do as a region to build on the existing momentum and to maintain that momentum in the longer term?
Absolutely. I mean, Dion, what Caribbean Airlines represents and does in the Caribbean is probably, through my lens, the most important deficiency that we have. We are an open markets world. We are an open markets community in the Caribbean, and connectivity inter-island is one of the most complicated parts of our existing challenges. The consumer from a travel and tourism point of view, there's a golden rule that we abide by in every decision we make, and it's a very simple philosophy. The consumer will always choose the path of least resistance. If we make it efficient, if we make it accessible, if we make it easy, then the probability of getting visitors, locals, travelers to move back and forth will be amplified multiple times thereover. The Caribbean economy as a whole, the importance for trade within the CARICOM community is vital. I think elements of CARICOM have worked well, and I think there's a whole lot more that could still be done. And airlift is for sure, through my lens, at the top of that list. In addition to that, making sure that the region overall, that we are making it efficient and easy to invest. Local investors, foreign direct investment, overall, it is vital that we evolve with the world. The world has moved to a digital economy. It's moved to digitization in just about everything that we do as consumers every day. And it is vital that we in this region are not just with the times, but in many ways, where we can, we should be leading to ensure that we can create that ecosystem of open and free trade, of a lack of red tape, and overall remove bureaucracies so people want to invest, whether they're investing in second homes, whether they're relocating here to reside in this part of the world, whether they're open manufacturing and agricultural facilities to trade in between. I think airlift at the top of the list, and I think ease of doing business and connectivity between the regions and internationally would be at a very high level, top of my list of things that we should never take our eye off the ball.
One of the pain points of regional tourism, and for the region it's becoming increasingly so, each year we see the impact of global warming, and some of the regional leaders have taken this issue to the world stage, especially for us here as island states. From a company perspective, what are some of the practices used by Sandals to protect and sustain the environment in the places in which you operate?
The list is far and wide, and it goes from something like wastewater treatment plants, desal plants where we're taking our sewage and cleaning it, reusing the water on landscaping, to the removal of single-use plastics, to the adoption, because we have some of the highest radiant levels in the world here in the Caribbean, to using photovoltaic and solar technology. But probably overall, there's an international accredited platform called EarthCheck, which looks at every sort of iota of your operations, front of house, back of house, heart of the house, looking at all your consumables, whether it be through LPG or anything, energy, anything that it takes to run a resort, and making sure and showing you best practices. Through our Sandals Foundation, we do an immense amount of work with farmers and fishers, looking overall at utilizing and bringing in environmental experts and talking about resiliency. So that goes walking back into the back countries of farming and agriculture, and it comes right to the shores, looking at coral reef preservation. So much of the challenges that we face in the Caribbean are due to a lack of knowledge. They're due to our people not understanding clearly enough, if I do this action, that will happen. And examples of that would come from overfishing, for example. So we run a multitude of marine sanctuaries, work with marine sanctuaries, and it's absolutely critical that our fisher folk get the opportunity to understand how they can be a part of it, and how ultimately protecting certain parts of the marine community will yield higher results for them over time, as opposed to not having that knowledge, having our fish traps with the wire being too small, not allowing the young fish life to breed and spawn and expand. And so at the center of all of it is education, teaching our youngsters, the next generation, our fisher folk, our farmers, working with them. And what you see is that aha moment, that light bulb go off in people's minds when they're shown how they can be a part of the solution. We need to do more of it.
Yes, and the role of the individual, because sometimes it's very easy to look, it's the responsibility of the government, it's responsibility of business, but in fact, it is the responsibility of every single person. Yes, and the support of education, creating awareness, so that the public has a very clear understanding of, for example, if there is a flood, there's a reason for flooding outside of infrastructure. I can't simply dump my bottle into the street and expect it to stay there. It ends up somewhere, and sometimes it leads to problems. So the education is critical for the region as a whole. And as we speak of the region, what, in your view, can we do better to build and to showcase the Caribbean brand to the world?
Well, I think there's so much here, and the world is a story. Consumers, they love to understand, particularly today, the why. How did something become what it became? Tell me about it. What makes it special? We're living in a world where information is being fed to us almost real time, on news platforms, social media, and there is so much magic here. There's so much purity and so much dimension to the Caribbean. Thousands of undiscovered acres in rainforests, and, as I mentioned, waterfalls and rivers, and the sort of back countryside, the farm-to-table gastronomy, the festivals, the music, the carnivals, the fetes, all of it coming together. There's a backstory to everything that happens and everything that we do. And I think what we have to continue to do, to the point you were making, Dion, just now, is that it's a collective effort. We have to continue to harness all of that magic that we know because we live here in the Caribbean. And we have to make sure that we expose it to the consumers all around the world. We in our company at Sandals Resorts International, we keep things very simple in philosophy. And the philosophy that consumers are being bombarded with information from across a multitude of sectors. our goals here are to try and get more visitors to come to the Caribbean. Our goals here are to improve the quality of life of those who choose to live here and those who live here in the Caribbean. And collectively, the collective effort is, the Caribbean is an amazing story. I have not seen anywhere in the world that can truly outperform the Caribbean when you're looking for that type of a vacation experience. So I think the powers are in the numbers, the powers are in the collective effort, and making sure that we continue to stand with pride for what we represent here in this phenomenal archipelago known as the Caribbean.
I think you are perhaps one of the foremost ambassadors for the region and the brand and all that the Caribbean brand stands for. The resilience, the vibrancy, the passion of the people, which is reflected in all that we do. How important is the Sandals legacy to you? And from that perspective, as we speak of the region and tourism and our immense potential, what advice can you offer to entrepreneurs that are seeking to build and sustain strong and sort of legacy brands?
As they say, Rome wasn't built in a day, and where Sandals started with 99 bedrooms on a beach in Montego Bay, Jamaica, to what it is and what it represents today. Legacy is everything. I think Sandals Resorts has shown the opportunity of what's possible with big dreams and hard work and determination. I keep talking about collectivity. My father had this vision. He had this inherent belief system in his people. My father was not exposed internationally until later in his life, meaning he had never left Jamaica until far later in his life. And what he saw was what he knew, but he grew up on a beach and he knew that it was naturally beautiful. He remained humble in everything he did, and he worked harder than anyone I've ever met in my life, right up until the end of his life, giving every day 100%, making sure every day counts, not accepting status quo, finding a way to break out and clearly define yourself separately. And I think, if I can say that, many parts of the world, including parts of the Caribbean, we tend to accept mediocrity as a way of life. We tend to believe that we may not be able to be as good as something somewhere else in the world. And I think the more you travel the world, and those of us that are privileged to travel and promote the Caribbean, we get to see that everywhere in the world has their struggles and challenges too. And the difference in mindset and belief of where we can take this part of the world, because we always say in our company that when the Almighty created the Caribbean, He spent a little bit more time here than anywhere else. And it's important to look outside, to see that natural beauty, to know who you are, and to protect it into the future. So legacy for Sandals is everything to us. Legacy of what my father created and what we have the great honor of taking forward is everything to us. And what made us who we are is this region known as the Caribbean. So the Caribbean legacy we view as one with ourselves. And if I would, for my own family and for our own self, as people look onto Sandals, we would like them to look onto Sandals to say, you can never say that it couldn't be done, because it's already been done through Sandals. And Sandals continues every day to innovate, every day to outperform, and to make sure that we remain the leaders in hospitality. We're just warming up.
A perfect note for us to bring to a close our wonderful conversation. And arising from this, I see that creating a strong business and building a better world and being an agent for good, they're not at all conflicting goals. As a matter of fact, they can be regarded as essential for our long-term success. Mr. Stewart, thank you for taking time on a second occasion to chat with us, to share your insight, and we are happy to take that and share it with our viewers and with the world.
It is my great honor and privilege, and thank you for everything that Caribbean does for the Caribbean. We love you guys, and we wish you continued success. Thank you.
Thank you for your sentiments. It's indeed our pleasure and our privilege to serve the region.
Brilliant. Lovely. Let's do it together.
Indeed, we must.